Bloodlust Moon, by Derion D. Woods. Book 1. Dust and Static. Chapter 1. The blood moon hung low and swollen over the broken spine of the American Southwest, painting everything in shades of rust and slaughter. It had been like this for years now, eternal, merciless, a constant reminder that the old sun was never coming back. Cale moved through the massacre site like a man walking through a dream he couldn't wake from. His boots crunched on shattered glass and spent bullet casings. The air smelled of cordite, hot metal, and the thick copper sweetness of fresh blood. 3 armored convoy trucks lay twisted and gutted along the old highway, their metal skins peeled open as if by giant hands. He knelt beside what remained of the rearmost vehicle. The driver's torso had been torn nearly in half, but the neck wounds told a different story: 2 clean punctures, the surrounding skin still carrying that faint purplish flush vampires left behind when they fed deep and slow. Someone had taken their time here before the real violence started. Cale's fingers hovered over the marks without touching them. 10 years had taught him the difference between a quick kill and a message. A soft whimper pulled his attention to the overturned lead truck. Half buried under twisted steel and leaking fuel, a young woman clutched a small child to her chest. Both were slick with blood that wasn't theirs. The woman's eyes were wide, glassy with shock. Cale approached slowly, crossbow slung low at his side. The weapon was old, practical wooden stakes reinforced with silver wire, bolts tipped with whatever worked on any given night. "You're still breathing," he said, voice rough as desert gravel. "That makes you lucky. Or bait." The woman's lips trembled. They came out of nowhere, no sound. Just pressure. Then the dust. And the blood. God, the blood kept raining. Cale glanced up at the empty crimson sky. A faint static prickling at the base of his skull, the way it always did when something unnatural was near. He rubbed the spot absently. The one man both sides wanted and neither could truly own. He pulled the woman and child free, checking them for bites or deep gashes. Shallow cuts only. He pressed his canteen to the woman's cracked lips. "Drink slow. You lose too much fluid out here. The moon cooks what's left." She swallowed, then whispered, "You're not with them. The pale ones are the animals." "I can tell." Cale gave a humorless snort. "Perk of the job. Means I get to watch both sides tear each other apart and pretend I'm not on the menu." He helped her stand. The child stared at him with hollow eyes that had already seen too much. A low wind carried distant howls across the dunes' werewolf territory, raw and honest in its hunger. Closer, the faint neon glow of Vesper's district pulsed like a dying heartbeat. Feeding grounds, pleasure districts, slaughter pens with better lighting. Cale's jaw tightened. He had business in both places tonight. 20 miles west, inside the velvet and rust of the old casino turned feeding lounge, Vesper Kane moved through the crowd like a king among willing cattle. His tailored black suit was immaculate despite the heat. Charcoal eyes scanned the room with predatory calm. Humans waited in neat lines, some trembling, some already half-drunk on the promise of protection in exchange for blood and body. He stopped in front of a sweating man on his knees. "Marcus," Vesper murmured, voice smooth as aged whiskey. "You're late on tithe again. But I'm in a generous mood." Marcus swallowed hard. "Please. My daughter." "Shush." Vesper leaned down, almost tenderly. His jaw shifted with a soft click. 2 elegant tusks extended, retracting first then driving downward like living needles. They sank into the man's neck with surgical precision. The victim's skin flushed instantly pale to rose to deep purplish red as blood surged in rhythmic waves. Marcus twitched, a broken moan escaping his lips. Pleasure and terror braided together while Vesper remained perfectly composed, eyes half-lidded in quiet satisfaction. "Order is the only mercy left," Vesper whispered against the pulsing vein. "Chaos is just suicide wearing a pretty mask." Across the room, Nyra Sable watched with dark amusement. Her lithe form draped in shadow and silk, she toyed with a thin silver chain around her wrist. When Vesper finally withdrew his tusks, leaving neat punctures and a lingering flush, she caught his eye and smiled like a secret. "The Queen will want a report on the convoy," she said softly as he approached. "And on the null." Vesper wiped a trace of blood from his lower lip with a thumb. "Cale. Still breathing. Still stubborn. Shia thinks she can turn him. I think he'll break beautifully when he finally does." Deep in the bone territories, where the desert met jagged rock, Ragnar Thorn stood at the center of the pack's firelight, massive and scarred, every inch the Wolf King. Sweat glistened on his bare chest under the blood moon. Around him, wolves in human skin laughed and fucked and fought with equal abandon. A younger male challenged him over a fresh human kill, some raider who'd wandered too far. Ragnar grinned, teeth too sharp. You want it? Take it. The transformation began with a low burn deep in his bones. Sweat poured down his temples. A wet crack echoed as his forearm bone pipe began to lengthen, tearing upward through muscle and skin in a slow, deliberate rip. The sharp organic tip emerged glistening with blood and clear fluid, paralyzing venom already beating at the point. Calf spikes punched downward through the backs of his legs, anchoring him to the earth with a crunch. Dense matted fur erupted through torn skin. The challenger lunged. Ragnar met him with raw power. Their bodies collided in a blur of claws and thrusting hips, violence and lust bleeding into one another. Pain and release. Evolution made flesh. Lyra, Silvertongue, watched from the edge of the circle, sleek and controlled. Her own bone weapons were half deployed, precise and elegant compared to Ragnar's brutal display. She licked her lips, eyes gleaming with something between strategy and hunger. Beautiful, she murmured, but wasteful. We should guide the change, not just drown in it. Back at the ruined gas station where Kale had dragged the survivors. He had barely finished bandaging the woman's arm when the static in his skull flared hot and sharp. Footsteps on gravel. Deliberate. Unafraid. Shia Tusk stepped into the weak moonlight like a queen entering her throne room. Porcelain pale skin, regal features carved from centuries of absolute control. Her dark gown clung to every curve, practical yet devastatingly sensual. No guards. She needed none. Kale, she said, voice low and intimate, like a lover sharing secrets in the dark. Still playing guardian to strays. My offer stands. Daylight. Real power. A place at the table instead of under it. The static screamed now. Kale's hand tightened on his crossbow. Last time someone offered me power, I watched my wife get drained slowly, he said flatly. Tusks locked in her neck while her skin turned that pretty purple and she begged me to run. Then your friends tore my daughter apart in the crossfire. So no, pass. Shia moved closer, close enough that he could smell the faint metallic sweetness on her breath. She reached up and traced the old scar on his neck with one cool finger. 10 years of ghosts, she whispered. I could quiet them, or make them sing. Your choice. For one dangerous heartbeat, Kale felt the pull, not mesmerism, never that but raw, shameful temptation. The promise of an end to the constant ache. Then it happened. 50 yards away, the desert floor erupted in a perfect ring of dust. No sound, no warning. A lone werewolf scout who had been trailing them simply vanished upward, body ripped into the sky. Hot blood exploded downward in thick sheets, pattering on the gas station roof like obscene rain. Shia's perfect composure cracked for the first time. Her eyes widened. That was not one of mine, she said quietly. Kale wiped blood from his face, staring into the crimson dark. The static had become something deeper now, almost like a whisper trying to form words. A single drop of the raining blood had landed on his split lip. Without thinking, he licked it away. The rush was immediately warm, electric clarity flooding his veins, strength uncoiling in his muscles like a promise. For 3 perfect seconds he felt alive in a way he hadn't since the world ended. Then the shame hit, crushing and familiar. He spat violently, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand, body trembling with the aftershock. Not today, he growled under his breath. Inside the gas station, the woman screamed as the wall buckled with sudden, silent force. Another perfect dust ring bloomed. More blood rained down. Kale turned and ran back toward the survivors, crossbow raised, heart hammering with exhaustion, rage, and the first dangerous flicker of something darker waking up inside his blood. The blood moon watched it all in silence. And somewhere in the dark, the silent kept hunting.